reason why I left church, religion, Christianity, and fundamentalism is that church wants Christianity taught in schools. Now, if you've been paying attention in the news lately for the past few years, you've noticed that a lot of states are allowing parents to opt out of non-religious activities if it violates their religious beliefs, banning books, book burnings, especially for things about racism, sexism, occult, and LGBTQ plus themes. And we've talked about all that. Now I want to talk about the real reason, well, not the real reason, but the primary reason that religious and conservatives don't want non-heterosexual themes taught or racism taught in school is because they have their own agenda. They want Christianity taught in schools instead of queer and racism themes. And it's a very brilliant agenda. If they can get Christianity as the sole religious belief taught in schools, they can indoctrinate and create more members. And I guess the cause and effect is more money in the offering plate, more influence, which means they can lobby for more discriminatory laws. Conservatives and Christians, they don't want anything but Christianity taught in schools because they want to control people. And when people are taught exclusivity, inclusion, different ways of life, the effects of racism, the effects of intolerance, the effects of all these things and how it affects everything else, very few people are going to want to hear about Christianity, okay? When you realize that Christianity literally kills people through legislation, laws, economic destruction, recession, sexism, immigration control, when people realize and figure out that groups that support these horrible human rights violations are basically churches or institutions that were started by people in churches. Because the church wants to control and gain access to people while they're still young. And this is what I've been saying in many videos. Religion, and it's just Christianity. It's funny how the other major world religions aren't pushing to get Judaism and Islam and Wicca into schools. It's always Christianity because they have to be predominant. If Christianity isn't predominant, they no longer have heterosexual privilege, male privilege, the Christian right. They don't have any of those things if Christianity isn't the main primary religion. So they target LGBTQ themed events, books, curriculum, education in and out of the classroom because it's taking people's attention away from their God. And Christianity is just one type of religion. Even though there's 40,000 denominations who all believe that their version is right, somebody's lying. They have to encroach on civil liberty. Because Christianity believes that everybody doesn't have complete free will. Christianity is a threat to bodily autonomy. Because who takes away abortion? Who takes away good health care, quality education? Conservative groups, religious groups. They don't want women to have bodily autonomy. They only fake that they care about the unborn, because once the child is born, they do nothing to give it a quality life. Children are all about control, and that's why conservative or religious groups want to control women's reproductive access. Churches, religion, conservative institutions want there to only be Christianity in school. Any ideology, any philosophies that go against their white privileged religion is a threat to their privilege. They'll do anything they can to keep that privilege in its highest, most racist form. Why is it that every time you see a bunch of white supremacists or moms of liberty, hate groups, and people who hate queer people, why is like every picture just white people? Very rarely is there someone who isn't white in those pictures. I mean, you look at a MAGA picture, like just simply Google MAGA. Not one time in any picture have I seen anybody that wasn't 75% white. It's like, it's so obvious. It's so obvious why they don't want these things taught. Because anything that doesn't focus on God and Christianity is a threat to their privilege. It's all about racism. Abortion, it's all about hiding racism. So how do churches, why and how do they advocate for Christianity in schools? Well, number one, they promote moral foundations. Some believe that Christian teachings provide a valuable moral and ethical framework for children, and including them in curriculum would help instill positive values and character developments. Proponents argue that Christian education helps students understand and live out principles like honesty, respect, and compassion, according to OSLS.net. The problem with this is that they're teaching kids that you can only be a moral, decent person under the effects of religion. However, if you Google in prisons, what percentage of people identify as conservative or religious? 66%. 2 out of 3 prison inmates register or identify as conservative or traditionally religious. 0.07%, so basically 0.5% of people in prison are atheists. So when people say that I am immoral and I lack a moral foundation, I tell them that 2 out of 3 inmates in prison identify as Christian or traditional, while less than 1% of criminals in prison are atheists. The worst people I've ever heard of in American and world history identified with some religious affiliation. Basically, every world leader that persecuted, committed genocide, and were a horrible human being, I'd say 99% were affiliated with some religion. Most of them were Catholics. And that's not saying that all Catholics are bad. I'm just saying you look at kings and emperors who committed vast genocide and ethnic cleansing, you'll see that the majority of them were under the papacy. The Spanish Inquisition, the pilgrims fleeing to America was because of Catholicism. And teaching children that morality and having a moral structure can only exist under the believing of God is what I call emotionally damaging. Because when kids learn that only people who believe in God are moral, decent people, when they meet an atheist, the first thing that's going to come to their mind or out their mouth is you're morally depraved because you don't believe in God. Even though evidence shows there's a 66% more likely chance of you going to prison if you are religious. Number 2, understanding history and culture. Others contend that a basic understanding of Christianity is essential for a well-rounded education, arguing that it's deeply interwoven with Western civilization, literature, art, and American history and traditions. They believe that without this context, students cannot fully grasp the cultural and historical landscape of the United States and the world. This was said by Education Week. The problem with the understanding history and culture part is people like me who are historians realize that most of the world's worst acts of depravity were under the religious privilege or religious persecution complex. Christianity has killed estimatingly 200 million people since its conception. No other religion has killed more people. This is persecution, this is Inquisition, political religious wars, the Crusades. Christianity justifies genocide, but it's only genocide if someone who isn't white does it. Hitler's, I guess, the exception to that rule. But American presidents can kill a lot of people through war, and they justify it because it's the privileged right of the white people. How many classes in high school did I sit through with Florida white supremacist curriculum, talking about that it was the white man's right to colonialize? Number 3, concerns about secularism in education. Some evangelical Christians and Catholics express concerns about what they perceive as a liberal orthodoxy in public school curricula and seek to reinforce a notion on family values in education, according to the New York Times. They believe that public schools have become overly sexualized and secularized and are not adequately addressing the spiritual or moral development of children. Yeah, you know, this could backfire, because once kids understand how religion works in American history, they're going to realize that Baptists and Christians supported slavery up until the 1990s. The McCarthyism, the Red and Lavender Scare, was a moral panic due to the effects of communism over the ocean. All the Christian logos in American government, like In God We Trust or One Nation Under God, was added in the 50s when people were trying to maintain godly values while they made gay people take tests to prove how gay they were. If you worked in the U.S. government in the 50s, you had to take a polygraph test to prove you weren't gay. Number 4, Christian nationalism.